reading exactly enough into Madoka Magica. This is part of our reading too much into series of analytical panels about different anime. However, we don't think it's possible to read too much into Madoka, but just exactly enough, so we change the title. Now, before we start, spoiler warning. We're going to assume you've seen all of Madoka already. If you haven't, leave now.
If you haven't, why are you here?
And we strongly recommend that you do watch it if you haven't watched it. So for those people who drag their friend here not knowing what's going on, I'm sorry. Madoka is like this roller coaster ride of a series, and we can't spoil it because we want you to watch it. So let's do this.
Alright. A lot of people have compared Madoka to NGE, and I think it's a fair comparison. I know when I watched it, my mind was blown just as much as it was when I watched NGE 18 years ago, or close to that. Even if it's not quite as tricky. Nothing has owned my brain since Eva until this came along. And I want to take it apart, I want to grok it completely. The more I do, the more I find. But it's more than just trippiness or mind-blowiness. It's got a similar role to Eva. It's a deconstruction of the magical girl genre, where Eva was a deconstruction of the super robot genre. What I mean, a genre deconstruction is a work that takes a particular genre and strips out the narrative convenience. It takes the normal tropes and elements, but it removes the little departures from reality that make the genre work, and tried to depict it as realistically as possible, and in so doing show kind of the underlying contradictions of the genre. For example, in Eva, the focus was on how psychologically devastating it would be to place the fate of the world on the shoulders of a child and force them to face monsters. Madoka does the same thing with the magical girl genre. It also a lot looks into the fact that they have to keep this a secret and how isolated that makes them, and how isolated their sort of superhero-esque role makes them from other people. Madoka's death really has the effect of showing how narrative convenience is stripped out. It is a narrative convenience of magical girl shows that nobody dies until the season finale. Nobody dies against the monster of the week. You know nobody's going to die against the monster of the week. Mommy dies against the monster of the week.
She was the legend!
This is not... So what they did is they stripped out plot armor, which is one example of what they did. They also... She did her big final attack. It was the second time she'd done her big final attack and it didn't work.
It's called Tiro Finale for a reason.
The big final attack does not fail in magical girl shows, but it does here. Now, Eva ultimately returns at the end to the core shonen theme. A young man embraces hope and self-determination to cross the threshold into adulthood. Madoka also ultimately embraces what we could consider the core magical girl theme, which is a young woman evolving into a powerful, goddess-like figure who is able to protect the world. So it takes the genre apart, but then it puts it back together again as something new. And by doing that, it becomes a new benchmark. It becomes a new standard of what this genre can be and should be. Just as kind of happened with Eva in the late 90s, early 2000s with mecha shows, I suspect over the next few years, every time there's a new magical girl show, people will be saying, oh, this took X from Madoka, or this doesn't really stack up against Madoka, or oh my god, this is the new Madoka. And it'll be Madoka, 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 Madoka.
Madoka is the new black. And when it comes to deconstruction, see also TV tropes. Now, magical girl feminism. It's frequently used as a metaphor in many works. That is the entire basis of magical girl realism genre. For example, magical girl shows, no exception. In them, magic is often a symbol of female empowerment. The magical girl is an empowering symbol. A girl endowed with the ability to resolve her problems, protect others, and ultimately save the freaking world. It's an ascent to godhood. Magical girls are awesome. But, for example, Princess Serenity and Sailor Moon. Sakura surpassing Cloud Reed at the end of Cardcaptor Sakura. Examples of, like, that goddess role that they take, literally. And the magical girl is able to escape the confines of a traditional female role and basically take on a male role as a warrior without sacrificing her femininity. In other words, yes, high heels may be impractical in battle, but man, she could do it. And as in Pretty Warrior Sailor Moon, the transformation sequence is symbolic in a way that she must transform into something other than a regular girl. She must, that is usually a passive role, a innocence role, a weakness role, and basically transform to achieve her full potential as Madoka does, as Madoka subverts all this. Madoka subverts this because the magical girls become liches, sacrificing not their femininity, but also their humanity. They're victims of a predator who uses prepubescent girls for his own purposes. Middle school girls are like the perfect targets for his plan because, well, by his, Cube's, because they have extreme emotional highs and lows of any adolescence. I mean, we all remember middle school, and yes, I see your plushie. And basically, these magical girls, these middle school girls, they're inexperienced, they're gullible, and trained more than boys to worry about others' feelings and put other people's needs above their own. Where a boy's social training might lead them to be perfectly fine about wishing for themselves. A girl is trained to feel guilty for wishing for themselves and feel guilty for pursuing her own wants, her own needs. I totally forgot where I was. Oh, Jen.
You're on stage.
Yes, I am on the stage. Thank you. Jed still helped. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. Okay, and thus either makes a girl makes a selfless wish and regrets making the wrong wish. Like, think about Sayaka. She kind of regrets making that wish and then Kyoko, basically wishing for her dad, or wish for their own needs. Mommy felt guilty because, well, notice how she's alone. She didn't wish for just her to survive. She lost her parents, most likely, and feels guilty about it. But in the end, Madoka is able to find the right wish to achieve that godlike status, and so, in another sense, the series just deconstructs and then reconstructs the magical girl genre.
Where did our slides go?
You have the slide.
Are people able to see? Okay. Madoka not only deconstructs magical girls, it also deconstructs the vile aesthetic of moe, which has been corrupting the genre for a decade now. And wonderfully, unlike the magical girl genre itself, Madoka makes absolutely no effort whatsoever to put moe back together again when it's done. It just leaves it in pieces. Moe is the fetishization of vulnerability, weakness, and suffering. The usually male viewer is supposed to feel a protective impulse toward the usually female moe character as the basis for this emotional attachment that within moe fandom is depicted as an ideal form of love. But like all forms of white knightism, there's a paradox here. The moe fan does not care about the character until they suffer, until they demonstrate weakness. And then they wish for the character to be safe, to feel better. They want to comfort the character. They need the suffering to happen in order to fulfill a fantasy of swooping in to save the day. So, Madoka starts with characters that fulfill pretty typical moe archetypes. Madoka, at the beginning, is a bog-standard moe blog. Sayaka is this happy tomboy that underneath is in pain and needs love. Kyoko is, standard issue ISO tsundere. And Homura is a clone of Rei Ayanami. It takes them, it makes them cute, it puts them in frilly outfits, makes them all moe. And then, like moe stuff does, it hurts them. a lot. In the least sexy ways imaginable.
Like getting your head bit off.
Their suffering is not depicted as beautiful or attractive or idealized. It is horrifying. You do not want to swoop in and comfort them so that they will then have to love you. You just want it to stop. It seeks to evoke real empathy, not the objectifying, self-serving pseudo-empathy of Moe. It is a huge chastisement to Moe fans and creators. It is saying, you want other people to be unsafe for your gratification. What about them? No one would ever wish to feel vulnerable, but you don't care about them. You only care about how they make you feel. It is an accusation toward Moe fans and Moe creators of violating in spirit, since these are fictional characters, but still, violating the categorical imperative to treat other people as people with wants and needs of their own and as ends in themselves, rather than as objects to be used as a means to your own ends, to the satisfaction of your desires. All right, so it looked like only 5 people walked out while I was talking about Moe. That's pretty good.
Moe is not tasty.
Now, Madoka is about more than just other anime. It's chock full of references to other stories, works, and ideals. Let me tell you about Kosuke Vismo, Kosuke the Deathless. Kosuke is an evil wizard who menaces young women, usually the love interest of the hero of whatever story he's in. He's a figure from Russian folklore. He cannot be killed by normal means because he has removed his soul from his body and hidden it in an egg. Sound familiar? He hides the egg inside a duck, inside a hare, inside an iron chest, buried under a green oak tree on an island in the middle of the ocean. If someone takes the egg, he becomes a weak and powerless husk. Sound familiar? If someone starts throwing the egg around or hurting the egg, he is flung around as well or hurt as well, just as Kyubey is able to cause Sayaka pain just by attacking the egg. And if the egg is destroyed, he dies. The soul gems in Madoka, as I've been hinting, are clearly based on the Kosuke legend. Fans often compare them to the phylacteries of D&D liches, but I think that's a case of narrow reference pool because the phylacteries of D&D liches are also based on Kosuke the Deathless. However, I think the fact that they're egg-shaped and that damage to them is felt as pain, which is an element of the Kosuke legend but not of D&D, that tells me that they're coming from the Kosuke legend. It's also clear from some other references we'll mention later on that they have looked a little bit at Slavic folklore, so not surprising they would have encountered this story. Faust. This is the obvious one. This is the blatant one. It repeatedly references, and I cannot pronounce this person's name, so I apologize, Goethe's Faust, to the point of being arguably a retelling. It is a very old legend of a man who makes a bargain with the devil. It's most well known from an English play by Christopher Marlowe, a 2-part German play by Goethe, which is the one they keep quoting, and a French opera by Gounod, based mostly on part 1 of Goethe's version. Really quick plot summary. Faust is an old man who is a wise sage but finds no joy in his life. He makes a deal with the demon Mephistopheles to become young again to try to live his life differently. Mephistopheles agrees to show Faust all the pleasures he missed, but in return, if Faust ever experiences a moment of happiness so great that he wishes to stop time so that that moment will last forever, Faust immediately dies and goes to hell. So the first part of Goethe's Faust, which was published in 1808, revised in 1828, follows Faust as he woos a young woman named Marguerite or Gretchen. After he kills her brother, he leaves to celebrate Walpurgisnacht, which is when German and Slavic folklore says witches and demons have an orgy. He returns to find Gretchen is mad and in prison. She gave birth to his child while he was gone, but it was taken away from her. He tries to free her, but she's so delusional she cannot understand what is going on or who he is, and he's forced to leave her behind as he flees from the guards. Part 2 was published in 1832, the year of Goethe's death, and it is freaking weird. It is the much less known part. Faust is now old again. He's successful and wealthy and a powerful sorcerer. And he has time travel adventures where he hooks up with Helen of Troy, saves the German economy by inventing fiat currency, and wins a war by leading an army of demons.
I want an anime of that.
At the end, finally, after all these adventures, he does something for which his sole motivation is the good of another person instead of his own good. He experiences a moment of perfect happiness and dies. But because he died doing a good deed, he goes to judgment instead of directly to hell. Gretchen pleads with the Virgin Mary and gets permission for Gretchen to guide Faust into heaven. Faust quotes are everywhere in Madoka. They show up as graffiti in some scenes. They show up as cryptograms. That weird text that flashes sometimes inside witches' barriers is often cryptograms of Faust quotes. Valpurgis not. They refer to it in the anime as an immensely powerful witch, but it actually appears to be multiple witches. There's all those different girls moving around within it, going on an orgy of destruction. The witches' barriers are prisons where they overwrite reality with their own despair and madness, just like Gretchen at the end of Faust Part 1. A moment of perfect happiness leads to hell for Faust, and this happens again and again in the anime. Mami goes in moments from the blissful discovery that she finally has friends and allies to nom nom nom. Kyoko's father is so happy to have a congregation that listens to him, and then he finds out they're being compelled by magic and commits murder-suicide. Sayaka gets the happiness of saving Kyosuke, and that turns out to be the beginning of a descent into despair and witchery. You can also kind of map the characters. Kyubey is very clearly Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles first appears in Goethe's Faust as a cute little doggy. And then soon after is revealed to be this frightening, powerful predator who exchanged witches for souls. That's Kyubey. Mephistopheles wants Faust to experience a moment of happiness and then descend forever into hell. Kyubey is trying to gather energy from the emotional highs and lows the magical girls experiences and wants the energy they released when they descend into hell and become witches. Now, Kyubey's primary target is Madoka, so it might be tempting to see her as Faust, but I actually think that's wrong. The anime compares Madoka much more to Gretchen. For example, her witch form is named Gretchen Brunhilde. And Kyubey spends most of the anime trying and failing to get her to make a contract, whereas Faust makes his contract at the beginning of the story. And her wish to guide magical girls away from witchdom is a parallel to Gretchen's wish to guide Faust into heaven. She also takes on a little bit of a Virgin Mary role. The end of Faust Part 2 describes Mary as a goddess who guides people into heaven. Again, what Madoka does. So I think Homura is Faust. Like Faust, she makes a bargain with the devil to turn back time and correct the mistakes she believes she has made. Just like Faust is trying to turn back time and correct his mistakes and ultimately time travels. Her closest to Madoka reflects Faust's feelings for Gretchen. Her power to freeze a moment in time may reflect the condition for Faust's curse. And finally, like Faust, she learns that her attempt to turn back the clock has only made things worse. But although it really closely maps to Faust, Madoka also subverts Faust. In the end, Homura's wish is not a mistake, it is the key to breaking the cycle. And Madoka Gretchen makes a wish to Kyubey Mephistopheles, not God or Mary, to gain the power to guide others into heaven. The reason for that is because Madoka is actually not a character from Faust. She's not a Christian figure. She's really a character from another mythology entirely.
Now, basically, despite its connections to the Christian legend of Faust, Madoka is really actually a very Buddhist story. What do I mean by that? One of the central tenets of Buddhism is desire also leads to suffering. And this is very much the case in Madoka. All wishes ultimately lead to pain, despair, and emotional highs are balanced by emotional lows. And this series also talks a lot about karma. Karma is a very complex concept, and different sects view it differently. The Buddhist view it can be very loosely summed up as cause and effect. Action plants seeds which grow, maybe in this life but maybe the next, into consequences. Good actions lead to good consequences and bad to bad, but either way it has the effect of trapping you in the cycle of karma. Because those consequences lead to further action, which leads to more consequences. The magical girl happiness despair cycle works the same way, dragging them steadily down into witchhood. The weight of karma also binds people to the cycle of rebirth, forcing them basically to live over and over again at facing the burden of karma of past lives. Episode 10.
Not all.
Yeah, there's no nomming in 10.
No, I said not all.
Oh. in other words, that is the Enlightenment. The last cycle that Madoka learns both of Homura's time travel and the cycle of rebirth, and precisely what incubators are doing, which is the nature of karma, and where Perkins strongly resembles a lotus blossom, a symbol of enlightenment. While at the same time, the gear motif basically represents the ever-grinding wheel of karma. Buddhism traditionally divides the universe into 6 levels of being. Those of gods, asuras, humans, animals, preta, and hell. The god realm is basically occupied by devas, beings far more powerful than those of other realms, with powers of telepathy, illusion, and one class of deva are passionless and sexless, like Kyubey. The demigods are more powerful than humans, characterized by jealousy and desires, and reborn as a consequence of good intentions that lead to bad results. Those are magical girls. Actually, and the human realm is mostly the closest to enlightenment, the one from which it's possible to step directly into nirvana. And it is timelines that Madoka spent almost entirely human that she attains to the most higher level of being. I mean, come on, she stays human till the last episode. As we said earlier, Madoka resembles a figure from Buddhist mythology. The Bodhisattva, help me.
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. Say that 7 times fast. The
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva Kwanin. Kwanin was a young girl who nearly attained nirvana but stopped just before she reached it. She transcended space and time to reach out to others and help them achieve to enlightenment. Does that sound familiar? Before finally ascending to nirvana herself. This helps explain the Virgin Mary connection as well, and people who like to syncretic Buddhism and Christianity also identify Kwanin and Mary together. And when Christianity was illegal in Japan during the Edo period, underground Christians disguised statues of Mary as Kwanin. After saving everyone across time and space as
Bodhisattva.
Thank you, Madoka then crosses the threshold to the next level. She becomes a force of nature, an incarnation of hope, dissolving her consciousness, attaining nirvana. She is a god. She represents hope. Madoka represents hope, but a particular kind of hope. The hope that a higher power will help you, that the universe is orderly and a friendly place, and things will ultimately work out for the best. She is also hope in a human goodness. Series Gen Urabochi, series writer, once wrote this. Time to use the quoting voice. No matter what we do, we can't stop the universe from getting colder, either and on the same principle. This world is only maintained in existence by a series of logical, common sense processes, and it can never escape the bondage of its physical laws. Therefore, in order to write a perfect ending for a story, you must possess the power to break the chain of cause and effect, invert black and white, and act in complete contradiction to the rules of the universe. Only a heavenly chaste soul, a soul that resounds with genuine praise for humanity, can save the story. To write a story with a happy ending is a double challenge to the author's body as well as the mind. At some point, Gen Urabochi lost that power, and he still hasn't recovered. That's part of his quote too. But, end quote. But Madoka was able to restore that hope, even for her author. By restoring the creator's hope, she restored the universe. All hail Madoka!
All hail
Madakami?
Madakami! Oh my god! We should call it that for the rest of the panel.
Homura also represents hope, but a very different kind of hope. The sadly late philosopher and writer Václav Havel said that hope is a state of mind, not of the world. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same as joy that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprise that is obviously headed for success. It is an ability to work for something because it is good. Homura has no sense that things will work out. She does not have hope in the sense that she believes it will come out okay. She has hope in the sense that she carries on anyway, because things must work out. There is no alternative for her. She's going to keep going until they do. And even in her moment of despair, she gives birth to a still greater hope. Another quote from Havel: "Isn't it the moment of most profound doubt that gives birth to new certainties? Perhaps hopelessness is the very soil that nourishes human hope. Perhaps one could never find sense in life without first experiencing its absurdity."
Guernica. All right, just look at this for a second. Really famous painting. It is a painting from Pablo Picasso. Guernica shows the tragedy of war and the suffering it inflicts upon individuals, particularly innocent civilians. Guernica is a town in the province of Biscay Biscay and Basque country in Spain. For over 3 hours, 25 or more of Germany's best-equipped bombers basically pwned the place, accompanied by at least 20 more.
Messerschmitt and Fiat fighters.
He's better with other languages than me. Dumped over 100,000 pounds of explosives of incendiary bombs on the village, slowly and basically systematically making it rubble. In other words, all of its civilians, all of its buildings, gone within 3 hours. It is a symbol of the brutality of war, and when I learned of that, I basically cried. The light in the center of painting represents hope in a disaster, as past paintings have done. Basically, it was a trend, like, I guess you could call it a trend in paintings around that time and before that time, that light would represent hope, and basically they would always put a light above in the middle of a scene in the painting. Think about that. Now, what does that have to do with anything about Madoka? This painting is shown beneath Homura as she walks towards a witch in episode 10.
If you look very closely, you can see her feet at the bottom of the slide.
Yeah, her feet's at the way bottom of the slide. But you can see the similarity right there. This clearly references it with the similar cubist style and monochrome palette. For Homura, this could represent her character art fighting a war against Madoka's fate in Cube. At the time it showed up in episode 10, she was at conflict with herself. And it represented her inner character art and her own thoughts that leads to her actions. Or is it the animators just having a good time? I don't know, but I think it's the former. Now, more about Homura, my favorite character, by the way.
Mine too.
According to Urabuchi, Homura is Madoka's evangelist. The one who knows about Madoka and tells others that she is watching over and protecting them. Since magical girls' bodies are constantly being healed, it's possible that Homura lived for a very, very long time. And the final scene is suggestive of a post-apocalyptic future, probably hinted at by the appearance of a Mad Max character in episode 4, Nick's possible preview illustration.
Yeah, just to clarify that, at the end of episode 4, when they show the preview of the next episode, you know how at the end of every episode, at the end of the preview, they show a drawing of the characters. For some reason, there's a Mad Max character in that drawing. He's the guy in the hockey mask.
Tell me what it means. Perhaps she just wanders the world, telling all magical girls of Madoka, hoping to spread that hope. In that final scene, she sprouts witch-like wings. According to interviews with the creators, those storyboards had the wings white, but the animators changed it at the last minute to be mysterious. What does it mean? And thus has no meaning. However, if you mention that in the new timeline, Sayaka used the last of her power to kill a witch, it may represent like her limit break, where a magical girl uses all her magic in one blast, beginning the transformation to a witch, but then Madoka kills/saves her. And we get to see the end of Homura's journey, where she urged on by Madoka, and protects the world one last time before moving on to peace.
Sayaka.
Best cosplay back there.
If only every magical girl were so lucky in every timeline. If Madoka and Homura are hope, Sayaka is a representation of despair. She wishes for the benefit of another, but she's really being dishonest. What she wants is Kyosuke's love, not for him to be healed. In a way, it kind of ties back into that criticism of Moe that's implicit in the series. She's Moe for Kyosuke. And what she wishes for is not what she really wants, and the consequences are tragic. She's unable to bear the price of her wish, and she descends into a deep depression. She becomes self-hating and self-destructive. Another way to look at it is she makes a sacrifice to try to be with her prince, but he instead falls for another. In her despair, she loses her form, which is, of course, the original story of The Little Mermaid. Not that. Which is probably what the tale on her witch form is all about.
Yeah, it's not just, designers going mad. Now, Kyoko is another version of despair. Like Sayaka, she wished for another, her father. But while Sayaka lost everything because the person she wanted had no idea what she'd done, Kyoko lost everything when the person she wished for found out about what she's done. She pretends to feel no pain, and she throws herself into basically hedonism, doing whatever she wants without restraint, stealing apples, eating them, as if they will make her feel better. But ultimately, unlike Sayaka, she's unable to live with isolation and dies to be with Sayaka, thus starting the fan fiction.
The last major character, Kyubey, represents destiny. He perpetuates the cycle of despair that traps magical girls and witches and incubates their karmic seeds into full witches. He claims to be emotionless. He's not. He has goals, therefore he wants something, therefore he has emotions, because wanting something is an emotion. What he lacks are passion and emotional empathy. There's two kinds of empathy. Intellectual empathy is the kind Kyubey has. Intellectual empathy is when you are able to figure out what other people are feeling and use this information to determine your own actions. It's absolutely necessary to be able to manipulate people the way he does. Emotional empathy is when you feel what other people are feeling. It's when you feel bad that people around you are crying. It's when you feel happy that people around you are celebrating. There is a psychological condition where somebody has intellectual empathy but not emotional empathy. It's called sociopathy. So just as by the standards of his species, we are mentally ill, by the standards of our species, he is mentally ill. Kyubey is working towards an ultimately good goal, however. He wants to avert the heat death of the universe. What this is, entropy is the measure of disorder in a system. It increases as the system breaks down. The only way to keep a system running is to bring in energy from outside. For example, life on Earth is able to defy entropy because we have a steady supply of energy coming from outside the Earth in the form of sunlight. So even though turning dirt and air and water into a tree reduces entropy, it's more than balanced by the increase of entropy happening inside the sun as it burns its fuel. It's just like the hope-despair balance of the magical worlds. Since there is no outside the universe to get energy from, because that's what the universe is, it's everything, that means that if you look at the universe as a system, the law of entropy means that it will eventually run down and break down and die. It will attain a state of perfect disorder, an enormous cloud of slowly expanding and cooling gas. This is known as the heat death, and it's what Kyubey is trying to avoid. In the series, the emotional energy of magical girls creates energy from nothing, which is basically the same thing as saying it brings in energy from outside the universe. This allows you to break the laws of entropy, and it allows Kyubey's people to delay the end of the universe. Presumably this saves billions of lives, and it's probably also why wishes can defy time. Since in physics, entropy is the difference between past and future. The future is defined as the direction in which entropy increases. If you can overcome entropy, you can reverse time. So Kyubey is the perfect utilitarian. Utilitarianism is the belief that the right thing to do is whatever most improves the well-being of the most people. It's a rationalist ethics. It's about dispassionately gathering data and weighing outcomes to determine what does the most good for the most people. Almost like a mathematical formula. So, yeah, it involves making a few girls suffer horribly, but it saves billions of lives, so it's worth it, right? To the incubators, it is. And since they cannot conceive of any other basis for morality, they cannot understand why the magical girls have a problem with this. Madoka represents a different ethical system. She represents care ethics. Care ethics is the belief that the right thing to do is determined by empathizing with and caring about individual people, guided at least partially by your emotions. Since making the magical girls suffer violates empathy, even to save the universe is wrong. Madoka is emotionally unable to accept that saving the universe requires sacrificing innocent lives. She continues to search for another way to save it, where the incubators have already decided they have an acceptable solution. As a result, Madoka finds a solution the incubators couldn't. It's less efficient at saving the world. You know, in the last episode, Cube comments that their energy gathering is less efficient than it would have been in the other timeline. And thus, according to utilitarianism, what Madoka did is wrong, because reducing the efficiency with which you save lives is a violation of utilitarianism. But from any perspective that has even a little emotional empathy, you're still saving the people, the suffering isn't as bad. Madoka's solution is vastly, vastly superior. And, all right, we've got about 10 minutes left for questions.
If no one has a question, can we use this catwalk?
Anybody have questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
If you were to assign the traditional Dungeons & Dragons alignments, bulk, chaotic, good through evil to each character, how would you put them?
Cube is lawful evil. Kyoto is chaotic neutral. Madoka is lawful good. Sayaka.
Sorry, no attendees allowed on the catwalk. I was just informed.
Sayaka, I'm not sure, so I'm going to put her in, true neutral because that's the miscellaneous basket.
Just wait till the pop.
I was cosplaying. I don't get on the catwalk.
Anybody else? Oh, and Homura is lawful neutral. She's dedicated to a cause. She doesn't care what she has to do to complete it.
How do you taste?
It's that vegan. Tell him you pissed off.
Bad.
I can't hear you.
Be sure he sees my tweets. You sure Michael agreed.
That's a good question.
Can you repeat it for those of us who couldn't hear
Yeah,
it?
he was asking we were talking about Homer as a figure of hope and how that maps to the Kierkegaardian concept of the night of resignation and the night of faith. I would say that she is the night of faith. She is throwing herself into the abyss, not knowing if she will succeed, but she has no choice. She must do it in order to have any chance. So I think that's what I would do. I think there was someone else asking a question like at the same time.
How about we get cosplay?
I think there's someone over here.
Okay.
Shout, please.
Shout or move up, please.
Okay, so, yeah, we talked about Monica as a deconstruction of the magical girl genre. What are your thoughts on Princess Tutu, another show?
Oh my god, we're so big into Princess Tutu.
We absolutely love Princess Tutu. It is also an excellent deconstruction of magical girls, but even more so, it's just postmodernist awesomeness, and it would be a whole nother panel.
In fact, we should do that. All right, reading too much into Princess Tutu, coming possibly next year.
Let's do this. Actually, let's do this person. They're very eager.
Would you like to make a contract?
No.
No.
Well, two actually.
One, have you ever thought through your own wishes?
Have I thought about my own wishes?
Not wishes. Witches.
My own witch would be this. Okay, my own witch would be this comic-making dragon because basically my whole life is comics and making comics. Mine would be this comic-making dragon who probably has all these pens stuck in their skin because they're bleeding from the head, and then also it attacks with paper balls of doom.
No.
See, this is why I'm creative.
I'm creative too.
But yeah, but not when it comes to witches.
You don't have to wear that, guys.
Can't hear at all if you're talking.
Yeah, shout or run up real quick.
Just curious, what were your reactions after watching episode 10?
That's my favorite episode of any anime ever. That tops Gurren Lagann for me. That tops episodes of Ava for me.
Amen.
I watched that one episode at least 26 and a half times. I rewatched that episode last night.
It is a very good episode.
In the guy.
I had another question. It's this. From the last episode, instead of fighting witches, there were white humanoid creatures.
The demons?
Like what do they represent?
I think the demons, because witches also come from magical girls who used to be human, I think demons are all about evil thoughts, all of the things we want to do but don't because it's just not, good to do. I think they're the personification of all that, as demons are in Christianity, basically servants of the devil, or parts of ourselves that is just horrible.
So it's like if I killed...
I think they're what happened when Haruhi is depressed. Write that fanfic.
Write that fanfic. You, the Sayaka that's a witch now.
Wouldn't there be confusion with whether Haruhi is the god or Madoka?
I'm sorry, what?
Wouldn't there be confusion on whether Haruhi is the god or Madoka?
Oh, crap. You mean a god? You mean a god battle? Haruka versus Gattaca? Haruhi versus Gattaca? We need to do this.
No, it's not an issue because Haruhi is like an over deity and Madoka is like an ascended deity. So it'd be like Madoka would be like on one level below, like a minion god.
I think we need to make a chart of all the gods of anime because I'm sure Common is somewhere in there.
It has been done. Yeah, it has been done. It turns out Haruhi and Elsama from Slayers are the same character.
That explains so much. Yes, you and all the way in the back.
There was something I noticed during the series that the witch form of the magical girl has some type of manifestation towards their original wish or their character. So like that Sayaka, when she turned into her witch, you can see her at the back. There's a form of her. She's leading the orchestra, and then also the final witch that Madoka faces. When she turns already into that god figure and she goes back and sees her, she's with tents and like it's a carnival or something, and that actual witch is kind of like her dress that under the gears is kind of like a tent.
Yes. I thought the gear one was. When I first saw that, I thought, oh my god, is that Hamura witch from another timeline? But nah.
I was just asking if, do you guys think there is some type of connection that the authors put between your witch form and the magical girl's personality and their original wish?
I totally think it's a connection.
There actually is, if you look at some of the background materials, which I think if you go to the Madoka Wikia, they have translated some of that. For example, the Charlotte, Nom 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 witch. The magical girl that became Charlotte had a sick mother and wished for. I'm trying to remember if. Yeah, she didn't wish to heal her mother. She wished for one last cake to split with her mother, and so.
And then it's the witch.
And yeah, went straight into witchhood, and that's why the cake.
All right, we have time for one more. Pick one, Jet.
Let's go with this gentleman in the white shirt.
So just been told that the PS3 game gave Homer some witch form, but have you seen the theory that Walpurgis Knot is actually some sort of like time traveling witch form of Homer's?
That Homura is, I'm sorry, I didn't really hear you. Did you?
No.
So, so I've been told the PS3 game gave Homer a witch form, but before that, I'd seen a theory that the Walpurgisnacht was actually Homura's time-traveling witch form.
I actually thought that too, but now it wouldn't make sense in this, basically all of episode 10, so I just threw that theory away.
I don't think it is because there's a lot of, while there is the gear element that kind of ties with Homura, where does the circus come from? Why does it look like an upside-down Harlequin doll? What's with the Lotus theme? My theory is that Walpurgisnacht is the girl with the green hair in the with the tents and the maypole that we see at the very end of the last episode when Madoka prevents her from becoming a witch.
Oh, what a beautiful scene. Do you remember the quote from that end scene? Does anyone remember the quote? Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Okay. Well, anyway, it is now 4:29, and this panel is, well, woo! Thank you for coming, everyone. Remember, Sunday, Anime Miserables, Judaism and Anime, and Digimon Digital Fan Panel.
Not necessarily in that order.
Not in that order, but it's all on Sunday.